Good morning. My name is Michael McHale, and I do have the privilege and honor of serving as the President and CEO of True Community Care. On behalf of our Board of Directors, my colleagues here at True, and our many volunteers, I'd like to welcome you to the second annual Take Flight Butterfly Release and Memorial. We're so glad that you're able to join us today, however virtually, to release butterflies in memory of your loved ones. I'd like to thank our sponsors, our staff, donors, and volunteers for making this event possible. Thank you to all of you. At True, we understand that grief can be overwhelming and often confusing. In one moment, there is sadness and yearning for our loved ones. In the next, are rich memories and feelings of gratitude for the love that we shared. As we navigate these often disparate emotions, it takes great courage to pause, to breathe, and to honor our loved ones, particularly when the momentum of life is constantly pushing us forward. So it is a great gift to gather with others in such remembrance. We believe that releasing a butterfly is a beautiful way to honor those that we've lost, because the butterfly, as the following poem illustrates, is a symbol of hope, as well as an affirmation of beauty and love that are all around us. I'd like to share this poem with you, entitled A Symbol of Hope. A symbol of hope, a butterfly lights beside us like a sunbeam, and for a brief moment its glory and beauty belong to our world, but then it flies again, and though we wished it could have stayed, we feel lucky to have seen it. We're so grateful that you could join us today in this beautiful remembrance. Now we'll hear from True Grief Counselor Richard Mercer.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Mercer. I'm one of the grief counselors here at True Community Care. I want to thank you for joining us to celebrate and memorialize your loved ones as we do the same. This is a difficult time of loss and transition, especially now where we're feeling it personally in our communities, nationally and globally. And maybe today we can come together to experience some healing in a way with some solidarity and as we remember our loved ones. We're all aware of these losses that we're experiencing and that have increased. It can be a lot to hold as we're physically distanced from our communities. And our current losses can also reactivate past losses. So we get a compounding effect there of our grief. Traditionally, we've been able to physically gather into a space as a community as we said goodbye to our loved ones and celebrated their lives. This is an important part of our healing. But today, as we practice what they're calling social distancing, we're really practicing physical distancing. Physical distancing is something that's essential for all of us to stay safe. Social distancing is something we don't want. Social distancing is, or really what we need is the connection that is not social distancing. And many of us these days are connecting through telephone, or connecting maybe through speaking over a fence from a distance with our masks on. There are ways that we can do this and that we can come together as a community and be safe. And this is what we're doing today with this modified butterfly release. We join together in the company of strangers as we are all grieving multiple losses. This is a ritual that we'll be performing, that we'll be participating in. It's a ritual of remembrance where we can reaffirm that our loved ones will not be forgotten. This is coming together and maybe sharing stories about them, remembering them. One example of ways that we do this is with special holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, even a shift in seasons where we do remember them. We acknowledge them. It might be setting a place setting for them or just speaking their name quietly. And there are also rituals of reconciliation. These are the times that we can create a space and we can say, I'm sorry. Or we could say, I forgive you. And in this, there is healing. Today, we're doing the butterfly release, and you can pull in these different ways of making it personal for you. Although your loved one is no longer physically present, whether you believe in an afterlife or not, you'll continue to experience an ongoing relationship through the various ways that you'll remember and celebrate them. Sometimes this new relationship is experienced when seeing your loved one's favorite flower, or when sharing a meal that has a story behind it, some kind of connection. Either they loved it or they couldn't stand it and now you can eat it. Also hearing a favorite song or sharing a meaningful story. There are certain elements to rituals that we want. One is that it is an intentional setting of space and time, reserving that for us to practice something meaningful and something that does connect to our loved ones. There can be simple ones, simple rituals of simply getting up in the morning and saying, I love you. There are also the more formal rituals. We see these in funerals and memorial services and weddings. And these are rituals where it's planned, we come together as a community and oftentimes experience something that words cannot express. They can bring healing through a sense of connection, as I said, even when they make no sense to us at all. So I want to share a story that's meaningful to me. Back in 1973, I was 10 years old. We were living in Miami, Florida, and we had this enormous ficus tree growing in the yard. I loved to climb that tree. This first part of the story I'm going to tell you as it was told to me, because I don't remember it. I was climbing the tree. I fell out, and I landed on my back, and I was knocked unconscious. My mother came out of the house, and she saw me, and she had quite a scream, so I was told. She saw me unconscious and bleeding. She called the ambulance. I was delivered to the hospital, and the only thing that I do remember is waking up in the hospital room. It was dark outside. There was an IV in the backside of my hand. There was a bed rail there, and I looked over, and I saw my father sitting and reading the paper. In that moment, despite the new setting, the hospital room, the IV, seeing my dad sitting there calmly reading his paper, I felt that everything was as it should be, and I felt that I was safe. The final days of my dad's life happened in 2012. He was in the hospital for close to a week. We were there day and night. I was able to spend the nights, and I was grateful for that. One moment, I was reading my book, and I looked up, and I saw my dad with his tired eyes looking at me, and he had a very slight smile. That meant a lot to me. In that moment, there was a tenderness that I can't put into words. And I have no doubt at all that he knew he was dying. We had talked about it. And I hope that in that moment, he felt the same sense of safety that I had experienced 39 years earlier, that in the quiet company of one who loved him so deeply, all was as it should be. Now I'd like to take a moment to personalize this experience for you. I want to shift from the doing that we're so often participating in to just being. And it's in that space that we can welcome our loved ones. Michael Brown says in his book, The Presencing Process, that the only place healing can happen is in the present moment, and that the only way to the present moment is through our immediate experience of our senses. So I'm going to ask you, if you're not driving or operating any heavy machinery, to find a place to settle in, to relax. That can be sitting, or it could be lying down. You can close your eyes if you'd like, or you could just have them slightly open with a soft gaze downward. I'm going to do this along with you. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is take a breath. And return to your normal breathing. And just notice that breath. Allow yourself to feel it. Notice what you feel. Feel your rib cage expand and contract, your belly and your shoulders rise and fall. Notice if your in-breath is different than your out-breath. And as you ride each breath, notice if any tension felt in your body starts to soften. There are no rules about this. It doesn't have to soften. This is just about noticing and arriving. Continue breathing. As you do so, notice where your clothing might touch your skin. Where do you feel your breath causing the fabric to shift across your body? And now turn your attention to sounds around you. Go from one to the next. See if you can identify any qualities of each sound. As you listen to these sounds, do you notice a response? Sometimes it might be something like the plane flying overhead as you're doing this practice. Any judgments that come up, anything you want to change, or just anything that comes in. It might be a sense of comfort as you remember stories from the past. Is there a dominant sound? Notice that. And what is the quietest sound? And now let's shift to your sense on your skin. Can you feel the air moving across your skin? Does that have qualities you could use to describe it? Is it steady or intermittent? Can you feel its temperature? Is there a difference between what you feel on your hands compared to what you feel on your face? And now I want you to turn your attention back to your breath as it's rising and falling. And with this next piece, I want to say, if it becomes too much for you, you are welcome to open your eyes, to return to your breath, to maybe put your feet side by side and squeeze in, to ground yourself. I'm going to invite you to bring your loved one into this space. Think of the loved one that you're bringing with you today. Can you hear or remember their hello when you arrived, when you greeted them? Can you remember what that sounded like? What were the qualities of that? Something joyful, maybe matter of fact. Can you remember what you felt when they saw you and you saw them? And return to your breath. Do you remember looking forward to seeing them or how it felt when they came through the door? If you can feel that in your body, where do you feel it? And let yourself breathe through that space. Do you remember their laughter or maybe their smile? Feel that. And what was their dominant characteristic? How would people describe them? Maybe what's an adjective that you would use to describe them? And what do you notice as you remember that? And now, with your hands on your heart, think of what you would like to say to them in this moment. Maybe you can quietly say that. Feel the connection. And return to your breath. I hope for you that you can return to a sense of your loved one's presence throughout this day, this day of remembering and celebrating with love. I really want to thank all of you for showing up, for celebrating and remembering with us as we have experienced our losses. And now I would like to introduce you to Janie Blakely. She's one of our chaplains, and she has a few words that she would like to share. Thank you.
My name is Janie, and I'm a member of the care teams for home hospice here at True Community Care, and it is such a privilege to be with you this morning. I remember a year ago, it hardly seems possible, when we gathered, and the moments of joy and sorrow and remembrance together. And it reminds me of a Honduran proverb that says, when a grief is shared, it is halved, it is taken in two. And when a joy is shared, it is multiplied by two. And that certainly was, I think, for all of us gathered last year, an experience that we had in the moment of releasing a butterfly in the name of a loved one, where we remember how they touched our lives and we remember who they are to us. And then we share in that with one another. At first, I was very disappointed that we wouldn't be able to do that again together this year. But as so many things have been happening in this time of separation from physical separation from one another, there have been new ways to learn to connect and share in with one another. And I think our new journey this year may be a reflection of that, where each of you now will have your own unique journey carried by our hearts and our thoughts to be with you. And you will go to a new place, and you will make that place special, where you remember the life and the love of the one that you have lost. And you remember all the ways that they've touched you, just like these butterflies will be released and they will alight on a flower, or they will be touched by the breath of the wind. We remember the lives of those who touched us, and our hearts and thoughts will be with you. And that we invite you full-heartedly that if it's possible for you to share back with us, to share in the joy of that moment through a montage that will be created by our wonderful team. And I look forward so much into sharing in that with you through viewing. So please know that in the privilege of this moment, we too hold our hearts and our thoughts with your loved ones. We thank you so much for joining in with us in this special moment of remembrance. And that we look forward to the next time, where then we can all regather again someday soon, hopefully, where we can then remember together, where once again our grief will be halved and our joy will be doubled. Blessings and wonderful celebrations to you all.
Hi, my name is Deborah Hyatt. I'm a development associate at True. We're going to be having the butterfly pickup next. That's going to be at 2593 Park Lane in Lafayette. If you enter from the Park Lane street and into the main Pace drop-off area, we're going to divide the cars into 2 lanes. There will be a staff member there, and you can give them the number of butterflies you're picking up. They'll check your name off the list and send you on to the pickup area where they will hand you your to-go bag with your butterflies in it. Just think Chick-fil-A drive-through style. The main thing to remember is to keep your butterflies cool. We don't want them to get too hot. They are going to be cool in a dormant state when you get them, and it won't take too long for them to warm up. You might hear a little noise in the box and you might feel a little movement, and that's normal. It just means that they're waking up. When you get to your destination, all you have to do is just open up the box and the butterfly will wake up and stand up, and it should fly out on its own. If you have a long drive, just keep your butterflies cool. Bring a cooler with you. It just helps keep them comfortable and sleeping, and then just allow them about 10 minutes to warm up before you release them. So thank you again for participating today, and we will see you at the butterfly pickup. Thank you. Bye.